What we're about to embark on is not a novel concept. We've actually done this in the past around some other topics. But when we negotiated in this last round, the association and the district created a whole new evaluation article, and you're going to be grappling with that article and its contents as we move along. But what we wanted to make sure you have a handle on is what are all of the components that have been built into this excursion that we are about to embark on beginning today. And I think Perry will review with you what the modules are that we're going to be taking into consideration.
And before we move on to the actual modules, and I think you guys saw those in the email and the flyer, but you see up here it says district and SBTA partnership. This has really been a very long journey that you're going to hear about in regards to this point in time and how we got here and the true partnership and some of the subcommittee work and so forth. It was great work from both SBTA as well as the district. And Peg and I are here as partners, and we have you guys together as partners in moving through the modules, and we're really excited. So today, you see Module 1, it's really just orienting you to this new evaluation system. What are the differences between the new system and the old system? What was the thought process behind us coming to this new evaluation system? And what's the philosophy of evaluation as a whole? And we'll be discussing that briefly today, Peg and I. It's really going to be about you guys and you guys having conversation with one another. We'll do a little talking. Then you're also going to be doing some work with goal setting. You're going to see that within the new article, there are some opportunities for collaborative goal setting, and that will be Module 2. Module 3 will be talking about just providing feedback, effective feedback, and how to deliver the message and what type of feedback to give. And then lastly, the fourth module, you'll be going over with a new evaluation system or brand new evaluation instruments. So you guys are going to be learning about those different instruments and the timelines and when to fill something out and so on and so forth. So those are the four modules. Again, this is just the 2-hour Module 1 of orientation and philosophy.
In your packet, you actually have a copy of the PowerPoint, so you can write marginal notes if you need to. The next screen are the expected outcomes for what we're embarking on here and where we hope to be going. 4 deliberate group activities we are going to engage in, and specifically, as Perry said, you will be engaging in a lot of those activities. But it's trying to help you understand the new evaluation article in terms of what is different from the current one and what is similar to the current one, so that you have some sense of what the differences and the similarities are. What the growth model of evaluation is composed of. And as a part of the work in getting to this point, we put together a real consortium of stakeholders around the evaluation procedure who took a significant look at all of these. Perry alluded to our relationship from the beginning as a partnership. And you know that in any partnership, there comes a point in time when you go to war. We've mastered the fine art of doing it, but in this particular context, that is not what happened. We deliberately worked together to take a look at what are good evaluation practices, what are good outcomes from those good practices, what practices get in the way of those good outcomes. And part of those good outcomes is not only the growth and development of our students and the success of our faculty in our district, but it is also our moving the whole concept of collaboration, dialogue, and mutual respect to an entirely different level from where we are now. Speed of trust being one portion of it, but it's how do we move the dialogue around evaluation, around student performance, around all of those outcomes in a positive way. Thirdly, it's understanding what the purpose of the evaluation process is. Mutual agreement inside of the steps that we took was that the most effective teacher is the one who produces the most effective students, and consequently the most effective results. So that's paramount in terms of what we looked at as we evolved the evaluation process. Obviously, improve student growth and development. We don't have a choice in our industry and our profession anymore. That has to be what we're all about, and it has to be the focus. But we also wanted to make sure that everybody who's involved in this investment has a positive working relationship and a positive environment in which to succeed. And so those are the outcomes that we're hoping to get as a result of how we've broken up all of these concepts in this.
And just reviewing our expected outcomes, just some key words. If you look at the first bullet, collaborative process. That second bullet, growth, mutual respect, purpose, commitment, dialogue. And then the last one is effectiveness, growth, development, positive. In order for this process to be successful, it has to be a collaborative process. If you guys reflect, and you're going to have some opportunity to do some reflection on some effective evaluation processes that you've been through, the most effective ones are when you have dialogue with your supervisor, when there's mutual trust, mutual respect, mutual purpose. When all of that is there, then you're able to really grow one another. And so those are the 4 expected outcomes, very deliberately chosen words within it, and we're good on that. So we're going to do an activity. And I'm going to take you through the whole activity. This is just to get the juices flowing a little bit. Everyone has one sheet of paper in the middle of your table. And the title of this is Activity 1, Our Powerful Experiences. And I'm going to take you through so you know what's going to come out of this activity, each of the steps. So the first thing you're going to do, at the top, there's 2 questions, and I'll read those out loud. Question 1 is, think about a time when you felt that an evaluation process was extremely helpful in growing you both personally and professionally. You're going to reflect on that individually, and then next, you're going to reflect on what were the dynamics that led to an overwhelmingly positive experience. So you're going to spend about 3 minutes, and you're going to reflect individually. Then after that, you guys are going to work as a table group, and you're going to do the first piece of it. As a group, determine one word, only one word, not a phrase, not a sentence, one word that best describes the group's collective positive experiences. So you're going to reflect, you're going to share, and agree upon one word. After some time of you guys agreeing upon a word, you're going to take your paper, and I would say that we just do something like this. So you would put it there, you would put yours there, there, and then you guys are going to bring yours all the way over here. Does that make sense? You're going to trade papers. And then you as a group, you're going to look at their word. And then it says, as a group, draw a picture that interweaves the word shown above as well as that word you guys came up with as a group. And then you're going to draw a picture, and we'll see the creative artistic ones. Then you're going to trade it one more time. And then the third group is going to look at the picture, look at the word, think about your word, and you're going to write a powerful phrase. As a group, write one powerful sentence about positive evaluation experiences capturing your group's original word, the word above, and the depiction above. Does that make sense? So I'm going to have you guys for 3 minutes. You're going to reflect individually. 3 minutes, 2 questions. What was a time when you had a very helpful process that grew you both personally and professionally? And what were those dynamics? So 3 minutes of individual reflection. All right. I believe everyone's about done. So, here's what we're going to need. Each table is going to share out their sentence. I'm going to need for you really to maybe stand up and project your voice, so make sure whoever's at the table can do that, who the spokesperson is. And then if everyone else can listen to that. So we'll go ahead and start here in regards to what is the powerful statement in regards to a very successful, helpful evaluation process.
We have 3 words, which is honesty, trust, and collaboration, and we came up with collaboration builds honesty and trust.
Good, thank you. Give them a round of applause.
Our 3 words were valued, collaboration, and trust. And so we said, I feel valued when there's collaboration and trust. Our 3 words were coaching, collaboration, and value. Coaching and collaboration makes one feel valued.
Our 3 words were clarity, valued, and coach. And we put, when the coach takes the time to be clear, then the person who is coached can feel valued.
Our 3 words were empower, clarity, and coach, and we put a great coach uses clarity to empower their mentee.
Our 3 words were clarity, trust, and empowering. So trust is essential during the evaluation process in order to gain clarity while empowering both parties to reach their goals potential.
Our words were empower, trust, and trust. So we put trust empowers people to go places.
For trust, and honesty. And we said positive evaluation experience creates a trusting and safe system of supports.
Fell right along that. Trust, and honesty. Trust and honesty are the cornerstone of powerful professional growth.
So I think an overall theme with that was trust. I think we heard that probably 15 times, and it's extremely important. I'm going to tell you right now, you guys all know that we're working with the speed of trust. It's not going to be a book that's going to change how we interact with one another. It's not going to be the cards, and there's no passing of cards. It's really about looking in the mirror and just saying, are my behaviors demonstrating trust and so forth. So as we move forward through this process, we talked about our intentions. Really, the intentions here in the philosophy is to build an organization with trust. And part of building trust is the partnership of growing one another. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next activity. I appreciate you guys' participation in that. So the next piece is actually a little bit of background.
In order to help you understand how this all evolved, if you have the slide that talks about the Joint Evaluation Task Force. Sitting at the negotiations table and attempting to work through evaluation articles, procedures, documents, forms, steps, timelines, the whole gamut of what falls into an evaluation article is really one of the most time-consuming but narrow functions that happens at a bargaining table. So we made a mutual decision to create a stakeholder group made up of district administration and SBTA members, which we called the Joint Evaluation Task Force. And what Dr. Wiseman pulled out and we provided to you is the memo of understanding we wrote in order to establish that Joint Evaluation Task Force, to establish the work of that task force, and how the work of that task force comes back to the bargaining table for us to finalize the language. Very clearly, the direction for the task force was, you do not negotiate, you give us the recommendations for what should go into the new article. And they were quite active in that practice. I had an opportunity to sit in on a couple of their meetings, and let me tell you what, neither side held back. They talked very openly and honestly about what good evaluation practices needed to be and how it needed to be built. So what you have is the agreement that crafted the task force that resulted in her having this evaluation article completely revised.
Yeah, so just like Peg had stated, we had several articles on the table. And to really go line by line and to look at the research and look at other districts and see the evaluation processes they have, it was just way too much work to really handle in just the day-to-day negotiations. So as she said, we came to an agreement. So the JET team would go out, and they met several days, all day, and what they would do is they would come to the negotiations team and then provide some recommendations and updates. They'd go back to work and come back to it, and they're still working on the instruments. So this JET team is still a team within our district. We actually do have some members in the room that are on the team. I know of one. Who was on the team? Raise your hand. Okay, we got a couple. Here's Stephanie and Josh. Yeah. So we have some members that actually were on that team. They gave up a lot of time to take part in the process. It was really, like we talked about the partnership, it was really a partnership through that process as well.
If I may, to keep that collaboration going, not only is the JET team having to continue their work around all of the forms and documents and mechanisms inside of the article, but also they come together on a regular basis with the negotiations teams for both the district and the association to make sure that we're following what the intent of the article was without compromising the intent of the work of that task force either. And so the partnership continues through that kind of open and active collaboration and conversation and dialogue.
And the negotiations team, we charged the Joint Evaluation Task Force to go out and build an instrument and some language that is going to grow teachers, period. We want to really grow the skill and knowledge of our classroom teachers. We talk about these key performance indicators and all of these different things in the district, and we strongly believe if we want to make a significant difference in this school district, it's all about the skill and knowledge and growing our classroom teachers, hands down. So I think we have definitely a great start. And so that's how we got to this point in time. We negotiated, we agreed, and we couldn't obviously roll out when we agreed, which was several months ago. It wasn't like effective immediately. We needed time to get the instruments together. We needed time to roll it out and provide these trainings, do some calibration and so forth. So we're getting ready to have a July 1, 2016 is going to be the year that we're going to implement the new Article 16, which you're going to dig into in the next couple moments. Anything else, Peg?
No, that was it.
The JET team that you're referring to, that was made up of administration, it was teachers, and I know that's a question that I'll be asked. So it was just a group of all sorts of people, not just teachers or not just admin, right? No.
SBTA appointed the faculty members who were on it, and the admin appointed their administrative team. So, and they literally worked side by side.
Very diverse. I think both sides really wanted to make sure there was all voices, counselors, high school, middle school, elementary school. I know that when we had people in regards to the district piece of it, we wanted to make sure high school principals, vice principals at the middle school, so on and so forth, as well as special education and so forth. So we very diverse on both sides of the table. And like Peg said, they were very open. Here's how I feel. And I think over time that JET team actually nurtured some very positive, trusting relationships as well. Very positive experience.
So now we're going to have you take the opportunity to plumb what the new article actually does and says and is different and how it is similar. On your tables, you should have a copy of Appendix G. It also may be in your stack. This is the new article, and we put it in the appendix in the collective bargaining agreement so it would not get lost in anybody's vision. In your packet, you have an activity that's headed this way. The title of it, Compare and Contrast. Having been a high school English teacher, I never lose track of those terms, despite what I get to do. Here's what we want you to do. We're going to assign certain sections of the new article to certain tables so that we spread out the article and you're not trying to deal with all 12 sections. What we want you to do is identify what's different in the new article within those sections. Also, if you recollect what the current article looks like, what is similar to the current article? Okay? And if you have your collective bargaining agreement with you, which all of you should be carrying around at all times and have a copy beside your bed, then you can also refer to the current article. But if you would start with Article G, Appendix G, Article 16, these three tables to my left, you will work with sections 1 through 4 of this Article 16. This middle section will be 5 through 8. And this section over here will obviously have 9 through 12.
Yeah, but the district's gonna give you the, you know what I mean? Yeah.
That group that work with sections 1 through 4. Give us a synopsis of what you discovered in your probing of those 4 sections of the article when you compared the current article that's in practice now and the new article that will go into practice next year. Yes, I'm talking to you. Jump in.
Okay, well, I'll jump in. I don't know if anyone's ready. One thing that we noticed that the notice and orientation is now, to meet with the teachers, it's now 20 days instead of 30 days. Also, they're including the CFTP rubric, the self-assessment rubric. So that's the new portion of the notice and orientation, as well as the evaluator or designee shall be available to actually go in and model if the unit member request it. So that part is new under the notice and orientation, section 2. In section 3, then we have an individual meeting that needs to take place within 30 days of the school year. And that's where the evaluator and the unit member who are being evaluated will meet together for the collaborative goal setting, as well as the sharing of the self-assessment rubric, which is completed by the teacher. And so we see the whole section A is different under that initial individual meeting, because we have the goals that the teachers are to set, one professional goal, one district, school, or community goal, as well as one student outcome goal. So there's going to be 3 goals, and then those goals should be connected or may be connected to the KPIs, SPSA, or any other agreed upon indicators of success. The goal setting form is a living document. It can be changed at any time if both the admin and the unit member agree. And then there's goal monitoring, timelines, and things to demonstrate your progress. And then on section 4, we see that it's a little bit more detailed, talking about using the most current CCTC approved California teaching standards. We also see that the measurable goals on each section is added. So for the counselors, there's a measurable goal. For nurses, there's a measurable goal. For speech and language pathologists, for psychologists. So that whole section, which is measurable goals as outlined in section 3, has been added to all the individual listings, like the librarian, permit teachers, etc.
I have a question. For the group. Does anyone know the difference between the old CSTPs and the new CSTPs? And actually, I think the commission is looking to revise them again. Does anyone know the difference between those two? The overarching standards are pretty similar, but the substandards are a little more rigorous. Do you guys know where the rigor is?
Technology assessment.
Right here.
English learners and technology.
So your students with disabilities, your English learners, and the differentiation involved in delivering instruction to high needs students is a big component in the new CSTPs. And there's the integration of technology. So there's going to be offerings throughout the year. I know that our BITSA team, or our TIP team, our teacher induction program, formerly BITSA, as well as our PAR team under Mary Pierce's leadership, they offer module training on the CSTPs throughout the year. I would urge you as teachers, as administrators, to go, because those standards have really bumped up in regards to their rigor.
And to help you understand how the sequence with the standards has flowed, originally the California standards for the teaching profession were written in terms of what does a teacher do. The second iteration, which is the 2009 iteration, shifted to what can I expect to be seeing students do. The most recent one that is, right this minute, it's on hold at the state level for a variety of reasons, but that has to do with integrating not simply ELD and technology, but special education. Because there is a whole new report from a commission on special education around how we need to make adjustments. This is all happening at the very same time that the state is looking at changing the teacher preparation programs to bring them better in line with what a Common Core is going to be expecting practitioners to be doing. So that may be one of the reasons why they suspended the decision on the new revision until they've got some other pieces put together. So for your benefit, for the time being at the start of the 16-17 year, we're going to work with the standards that are currently in place and not attempt to introduce the new ones until we know they're official. And we would not do that to you mid-year. That was a commitment that came out of our joint work with the task force and with the bargaining team, is we wouldn't do that right in the middle of the year. That's just simply impractical and unfair.
Quick question, I know you guys had this conversation, I'm sure of it. What kind of things did you guys come up with when you were talking about student outcome goals for the nurses?
The question was, what kind of conversations occurred around student outcome goals for nurses? And actually, we discussed every classification of certificated, how we could tie it to student outcome goals. And while the classroom teacher may have a direct impact on academic achievement goals, the nurse could have a variety of roles that might indirectly impact their attendance, behavior, whatever it may be. So that you'll see in the goal setting module that's going to be coming up. But yeah, we did have conversation. Every certificated as well as classified member in this organization somehow or another impacts, whether it's directly or indirectly, student outcomes, period. So we just have to find those connections, and it's going to be a collaborative process. Sitting down with the nurses, what do you think are some goals that could impact student outcomes? So good question.
And not only is it a good question, but it also falls back into the history. The current article that you have involves various tools for the forms and documents for each of the different classes of employees. Counselors have their own versions, librarians have theirs, nurses have theirs. All of those documents were developed collaboratively with the particular class of employees that they come in contact with. And that was done well before the article that is currently in place. And that was all a part of that collaborative effort too. So we're going to replicate that same behavior. We're not going to lose track of that collaboration piece of it. I also had a question that was asked about what the student outcome goals will look like. In terms of the goal setting workshop, or the module rather, you're going to actually get an opportunity to see modeling of a goal setting conference, as well as perhaps models of what goals could look like. The one thing we did not want to do was to create a template the way the SMART goals did, so that all goals are written in the same rigid fashion. We really want them to be sensitive to the need of your school, your school's population, your single plan for student achievement, the KPIs as they relate to your role in the district, and any other standards that might be of value to you at your particular site. So this is much more aimed at the success of individual schools, and that from that comes the success of the district.
Any other comments for sections 1 through 4?
You drew on the fact that we changed the notice and orientation window to 20 days after the start of the year. We happen to know that the majority of our schools do that notice and orientation like a cattle call at the very beginning of the year with a mass production of the notice and orientation forms. Everybody signs off and then we go away, happy. Well, we shorten the timeline because we want to invest more time in that individual goal setting, dialogue, and conversation. And so folks will actually see what the rubric is going to look like that we're going to be asking you to hand out during that orientation. Good point, though.
No, I just noticed on this, actually our colleagues did a really good job of summarizing everything that we noticed. On the evaluation criteria, if I did 4, it kind of looks as though I'm looking at 5 areas. I mean, it was numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So which section?
In section 4. So I'm looking at these under I'm looking at teachers. It looks as though it has section 4 using the following, and then there's 5, or actually 2, 3, 4, 5 areas. Is that correct?
Well, A through F are the standards for the teaching profession.
And those were included under 1.
The whole thing about report and timely communication, attendance and punctuality, all of those are professional work habits.
Okay, so that all falls under section 1, or the item 1.
Yes. But that's a good catch.
Let's go ahead and
Okay.
move on next.
5 through 8.
So section 5, we noticed section 5A1 was moved for a permanent union member. The first observation shall be completed prior to the winter recess. We also noticed letter B was new. Union members shall meet with their evaluator to collaboratively discuss the observation summary, rating related to evaluation criteria, as well as steps and strategies for growth. Then under section 6, we did notice that a lot of these we did practice this way, but it wasn't written in the contract. It's new in the contract. Section 6B, we noticed that union members shall meet with their evaluators to collaboratively discuss program review, rating related to evaluation criteria, as well as steps, strategies for growth. And then section 7, that whole section was added. Goal monitoring meeting. And in section 8, we just noticed a change from the first line from shall to may. In addition, the observation set forth in section 4, the evaluator instead now may review the appropriate indicators.
And also in section 5, we noticed for observation, it says that you can reduce an observation to 2 or more or 1. It says, but who has documented satisfactory performance, so it has to be documented.
And then section 5A.
5A.
And under current practice, under the current article, if you have an overall meets or exceeds at the end of the first or the second observation, and your evaluator sees your performance is stellar, you could mutually agree to waive whatever remaining observations there were. But you have to sign off on the waiver. Okay, and it is a part of the evaluation document itself where you mutually agree to do that. Thank you.
Anything else? All right, last sections.
On section 9, under assistance plan, we noticed that 1 through 4 were the same, but B and C were added. And on section 11, in the old packet, it was called evaluation, and this kind of called end of year evaluation. A was added and B was added. The paragraph under B was in the old article. And on section 12, under unsatisfactory performance, the only change we saw was on the last line where it says, the transfer request must be received by Human Resources 15 days prior to the end of the current school year. And in the old way, it said due to
Specific resources evaluated by the evaluator.
We noticed a lot of the language. There was a lot of different language. It said the evaluator believes, the evaluator is based on evidence now. Also that it's more of a collaborative development on the assistance plan. It's not just written, but everything that we're reading is collaborative between the evaluator and the unit members. So it seems like the whole process now is more collaborative. We noticed that in a lot of the language mutual agreement, and also it's more evidence-based in progress rather than just what the evaluator believes.
And that's an excellent touchstone for what's really driving the purpose behind this. For far too long, evaluation of employees, evaluations regardless of what position you're in academia or you're not, you're out in the outside world, your evaluations were always passive activities. We were determined that in order to really make the kind of growth and development that we believe is appropriate and capable, is we have to have ownership as a practitioner in how this all gets done. So the observation conference, for instance, it's not going to come to you all typed up and then you just sign it and walk away. Neither is the assistance plan going to come to you that way, because I've got to be able to tell you what kind of support I think will help me get to where you're trying to get me to go without your having to sit there and probe your own mind in terms of what I need. That doesn't mean evaluators don't have some responsibility to say, I think this will help you get to where you're trying to go. But the practitioner needs to be a partner in that conversation. And the JET team was emphatic. Far too often, it has been the most negative portion of the evaluation procedure. You're already stunned that you're being told you're being put on an assistance plan. Okay. You've spent 24 years as meets or exceeds in your profession, and now you've just been told you need to improve, and here's the assistance plan that's going to help you do that. You haven't recovered from the first notice that you were not doing well, let alone you want me to recover from the assistance plan. Making me a participant in that makes me far and away down the road successful, because now I own how I got there, or how I get there rather. So it's that, thank you. You hit the nail on the head, as Dr. Wiseman said.
Yeah. Those are two very important points, and we started this about the philosophy. The philosophy is that trust and the collaboration. You heard the words. This, you guys, before we even dug into this, said in order to have a very successful evaluation, we need to work in partnership as a team, collaboratively. So as we were drafting the language, we wanted to ensure that it was threaded throughout the article. So, and then also the evidence. We want to make sure that we have that evidence. Now, the recommendation, you guys did portions of it. You have to dig deep in this. You have to unpack, deconstruct every single section in this in order to really understand it, not just your little jigsaw section of it. This is going to be a significant increase in the work of the evaluator and the meetings and the time and all of that. And that's okay, because that work of being in the classroom and meeting with and partnering with and growing teachers is the work if we want to have an impact on this organization. It's not sitting in front of a computer. It's not sitting in your office. It is being in the classrooms with the teachers, seeing what's going on a regular basis, and providing some constructive feedback and having that collaborative relationship as you guys shared in the beginning. So it's going to be a complete shift. It doesn't look like a whole lot of changes, change of word here, maybe add a section there, but it completely changes the instruments. And you guys are going to see in a different module what those instruments are going to look like. For example, we're no longer going to have meets or exceeds, needs improvement, unsatisfactory. We're going to add an additional rating to where there's the meets and there's the exemplary and then and so forth. So there's a rubric, it's all completely changed, which you'll get in that last module. And keep in mind, there's a reason Peg and I are up here together. Not only are we trying to deliver it, but it really is symbolic of the partnership and the direction we're going as a school district.
If I may, I want to let 9 through 12 finish first and then come back to you.
Really, there wasn't a whole lot more other than the language piece that she pointed out. The one thing that stood out to us on top of that is that at that end of the year meeting, it actually has the verbiage that says that the unit member is responsible to provide the progress towards the goal. So that's the big deal, that they're going to, evaluate themselves and bring it forward that way.
One of the key elements that the JET team was emphatic needed to be built into this is the self-reflection on what am I doing that's moving this down the road, and what might I be doing that's getting in the way of it. What are some things that would be beneficial for me to do? And that's a self-reflection piece. And that's when I say, I know the teachers reflect on what they did each and every day at the end of their workday. We know that. I spent 13 years in the classroom, and I knew by the time I got to work the next day where I had screwed up the day before. But to build self-reflection into the evaluation process was never where we ever went. And that's why I said it was a passive piece. You always tell me what you want me to do, and then I'll do it, and you tell me whether I'm doing it right or I'm doing it wrong, and then you tell me how to correct it. That's too passive for this environment. And Common Core is going to require a far and away more active involvement in everything that we do. So it made sense to put the self-reflection and the activity into the evaluation process.
Well, just kind of piggybacking on the focus on section 9, part C, where we were talking about if the unit member transfers away from the site. Just correct me if I'm wrong, I'm a new administrator, and just even as a teacher, I was under the impression even as a teacher that if a teacher was on an assistance plan, they could not transfer. And therefore, there was that holding pattern between teacher and evaluator. Well, I'm not going to write that person up because then they're not going to leave, just to be transparent. So is that opening up the opportunity for them to say, because they are being self-reflective, you know what, I didn't meet that goal I set. I need improvement here with my student goal. As an area of improvement, I maybe need an assistance plan. Can they then transfer out?
Part of this stems from the fact that we have involuntary transfers, where an individual may be at a school, may have an assistance plan, and theoretically, when they move into a new environment, they need to be given a fair shot to prove what they're made of. The receiving principal could choose to keep that assistance plan, or taking a different view of that member entirely, craft an assistance plan that they thought was more appropriate for that individual.
Or they have different resources that they could provide to support that. So would section C only be related then to involuntary transfers, or are we saying?
Yeah, we actually had a lot of conversation on this topic in negotiations as well. And I'm former principal in the district. I remember there was an individual who, there was an involuntary transfer and really struggling, and then got into an environment, just a totally different environment. I said, I don't want to see anything. I want to see how he or she does here in this environment. And there was significant improvement. They were thriving. And we were talking about that I could have said, you know what, I'm going to take the assistance plan, I'm going to continue the assistance plan, but I wanted to give them an opportunity to really see how their skill knowledge is and so forth. And there was improvement. So we talked about, we have the right, if we want to roll it, we roll it. If we want to say, you know what, we're going to give them a shot and see how he or she does in this environment, we want to do that. And so that was kind of the rationale there.
Anything else?
I just have a question and comment.
in rolling this out to all of the unit members and administrators is the idea that we are taking this back as a team and collaboratively presenting to our staff after all modules.
That would be the model we would be hoping for. We're realizing that there may be scheduling conflicts where the site reps and the administrator can't attend the same session. And for the people who called me in the office, my advice to them was, all right, if you register for a different session from what your administrator does, sit down with them when you go back to the school and talk about what you both heard. We're going to have to do some backfill. We know that already because of the enormity of what else on everybody's plate. So we're going to have to figure out how to do that. But the ideal is that you become this partnership to the staff. One of the things I would encourage you to think about as you go away and you reflect on what you experienced here today, do not hesitate to email ideas about how we could shore up what we're doing here in this particular module. This is the only one they cut us loose on.
So one more question. I know we got to move on in the agenda.
I just wanted to share an observation. I know that at the beginning it's about growing teachers, their skills and knowledge, but we really can't grow anything until we have safe environments where people feel safe. And I believe that this is creating that safety so we can be vulnerable to grow, that growth mindset. And I'm really excited about all of this.
Well, thank you. And in regards to the being vulnerable, I think it's the expectation that we all be vulnerable, as well as our supervisors, as well as our teachers and so forth. So appreciate the comment. So let's go ahead and move on. We're going to do a quick activity. In the middle of your table, you got some colored A, B, C, D. Get those close to you. We're going to check for understanding. You're going to have a quiz. It's going to be a multiple choice quiz. So your group is going to put up A, B, C, or D, whatever the right answer is. So make sure you don't have someone just put theirs up because you won't, maybe that might not. So we got an A, that's number one, you're picking A? All right, let's have some fun with this, just real quick. And then we have one more activity after that to get some feedback. CSTPs, A, B, C, or D. Don't say it out loud. Now, well now. It was supposed to be electronic, but it didn't work out too well. I see that most of you have C. If you don't know the answer and you see everyone doing C, put C up. A minimum of 3. Get them up there high. Remember, we can be vulnerable. Sylvette says D. That is correct. The number of observations, unless there's mutual agreement on it being waived to 2 or 1. First step of the evaluation procedure. Notice an orientation which occurs within the first how many? 20 days. Oops. 10 days of school. This is the one I didn't know the answer to. I'm thinking it's B. What's the answer? But then the multi-column sheet.
That's the rating sheet.
The multi-column sheet is the rating sheet. So I see B's, A's, D's. I actually think that you guys could all be right there. So we'll turn it over to Peg, see if she knows the answer.
Number one, on letter A, there is no deadline in Article 16 for which a unit member has the opportunity to write a response to an evaluation document. There is no timeline. The total window from the date of the observation to the date you complete that multi-column rating sheet is 10 days. The days of observation you need to do in a year, I don't care what downtown told you, but there's nothing in the article that dictates that. And how long an absence can delay the evaluation, there's no timeline. But if an evaluator were out ill for 20 days, or the employee were out ill for 20 days, that's the duration for that extension. School days. Keep in mind, the only place that calendar days comes into effect, the only place calendar days comes into effect is the final evaluation.
That's Ed Code.
That's driven by the Ed Code. Everything else is school days. Why? Because you have to be able to be there to correct whatever. Okay?
Professional learning suggestions. I see relevant to the teacher's goals and needs, obviously. What is goal monitoring? B. Put them up high. Monitoring. At least. So it's B. Now, remember, the goal form is organic. And you can meet all year long and discuss it, but you have to meet at least one time in regards to monitoring.
Right behind her. And maybe this isn't the play, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So when you look at those meetings for the goal setting, and you have the assistance plan, right? Are we going to have some overlapping or conflicts a little bit, or how do we streamline?
Well, naturally, when you do an assistance plan, you should be doing progress assessments of what's happening and what's not happening. Interrelating that with a goal monitoring meeting makes logical sense to me. Yes.
They should weave together.
They should weave together.
Yeah. Developed collaboratively by both the evaluator and the unit member and is specific to the unit member. Assistance plan, good job. End of the year evaluation. I'm sorry. C, assistance plan. I saw a wave of C, no pun intended.
One of the reasons why it's a collaborative development is we have seen assistance plans where B was the reality. There were more things in that assistance plan than an individual could accomplish in 3 school years, let alone 1.
What we want to do, and it's very difficult, when you develop a plan of assistance, sometimes there's just, it's all over the place, and it's like, I don't even know where to start here. You have to really reflect and pull the evidence and say, what are the few high leverage things that we can see a change in behavior that are going to have the greatest impact? You want it clear and concise and backed up with evidence. So think about that. And there's going to be a module on assistance plans and all that. End of the year evaluation. I see some tables aren't participating. All righty, good job. Everyone got 100%. Purpose of the renegotiated evaluation procedures. Absolutely. The goal is to improve instruction, increase the skill and knowledge, and so forth. We're going to fly through this. We'll give you one last question, and then we'll move to the last follow-up or wrap-up thing. Goals. All right, good job. We're going to have 3 areas. Student outcome. How many student outcome goals this coming school year? And is it just 1 forever? Then the following school year, we'll increase it to 2. That we negotiated that we're going to start with just 1 and then later on 2. So, we do have a couple minutes. Here's what we're going to do. At your table, we're going to do strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You at the table, you're going to talk about not necessarily the content of this, but the rollout of this. What are some strengths, weaknesses, opportunities? You're going to type that in your phone, only 1 per table, your computer, whatever you want to do, your iPad. You guys are going to talk about it, and then you're going to input. It's going to just have a box. Strengths. So talk as a table, and this is going to be used so we can consider that as we're moving forward with rolling it out.